a cult classic in the film world is very similar to the same here in the car world. It brews slowly over time as the formula is recycled and stitched up over decades of generic movies, making the core of its brilliance buried and forgotten by the masses. In the sports car realm, this forces us gearheads to search back in time for that ultimate driving experience, one that will never be recreated or improved upon. It's not possible. Or is it? Enter the BMW E30, one of the many great German chassis of our time and holding strong value today because, I hate to say it, the new cars just don't feel like the old ones. This one I'm driving today is powered by the straight six found in the E36 M3, a larger and more powerful engine, but still distinctly old school.
Welcome back to the show, you guys. What is going on? This is a completely NA old school kind of build. Now you take a bigger NA engine from a later car and put it in an E30 like this, and what you get is one of the most pure driving experiences on the planet. So before we get started, the owner of this car, Matt, who we've filmed with multiple times before, he has a Rabbit, or he did have a Rabbit. He has a Blah by STI. He's had an E36 Euro M3, which this engine came out of. He has fitted an exhaust cutout, and this is my first time opening it up. There we go. Oh yeah, now that sounds like it should. Oh, yes, yes. M-Power, baby, let's go. All right, so, oh, that sounds unreal. Yeah, that's a little obnoxious, Matt. Just a little obnoxious. Oh my God. So a lot of you guys are gonna hate me for saying this. But effectively, Matt has created a better E36 M3. There, I said it, boom. That's effectively what he's done, because guess what? This is much lighter than an E36 M3. Not a whole lot, to be honest, but it's smaller than an E36 M3. I think it's got a little bit more character than an E36 M3. It's a 91, the last year they made this car, and the throttle response is magnificent. It's all NA, so as much as I do love an M20 turbo build, that's like an extremely scary car. Ryan's car is frightening, extremely frightening to drive, which is a good thing. This is more of a pure motorsport experience here, which is what I just think it lends itself a little bit better to the chassis. It's a little bit more manageable. No, it might not be as fun to scare the shit out of your friends in this car, but oh, it's a real treat. It really is. Matt did tell me you could go past the tack, past the end of the tack. It revs to about 7,300 RPM and sounds quite marvelous while doing so, if I do say so myself. Matt's done a lot of work to sort out the small details that really separates it from a lot of other builds that I've driven, on or off camera, that, yeah, they have the engine and it's running and everything from the greater car or whatever it might be, but it's not tuned to the point where you could drive it every day, which this car is. It really shifts nicely. He's got a short shifter in here, which is much appreciated because, frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of the way E30s shift out of the box. They're a little bit sloppy, especially if the bushings are worn out, etc. It's a very old car. It's a 30-year-old car, right?
Yes, a 30-year-old car, but one that has aged brilliantly and better than most other cars from the time period. We've got the almost minimalist design of the E30 to thank for that, a concept that may as well be ancient technology in this modern world. It's one of the few cars that looks just as good on a showroom floor as it does tapping a wall on the drift circuit. The
LSD in the back is from an E28 5 Series. It's not aggressive at all, honestly. It's a factory 5 Series LSD, but an LSD nonetheless, which I think definitely is what this car needs. He's got sticky tires. He's got Wilwood brakes all around, 6 piston in the front, I believe 4 piston in the rear. So the stopping power, as I should experience here briefly in a second here, is phenomenal. It's got about 300 horsepower. Factory, they came with about 286 horsepower, but the few modifications Matt's done has increased the horsepower somewhere around 300. But again, you guys, the power number is not the story of this car. That's just not what this car is about. If you're concerned about the dyno graph of this car, it does not matter. You get behind the wheel and the driving experience takes over. Now, a lot of cars, I find, like especially modified R35 GTRs, rely on the power number to tell the story of the driving experience. The E30 does not. The E30 stands on its own, even in stock form, as an incredible classic driving experience. Although in stock form, not very confidence inspiring. You know, it's a little sloppy, like I was mentioning, especially with the shifter and the steering. But a swap like this is exactly what you would hope for in an E30 that's kind of aiming to be a better version of an E30 M3. I've never driven an E30 M3, and obviously production numbers and, you know, those cars hold a very distinct value above all other E30s because they hold a very important place in automotive history. But I have a hard time believing that an E30 M3 would be more fun to drive than this. Like, this is a fast car. This is a very fast car. And the torque is instant. It's incredibly linear. I know that term is so overused in automotive journalism and in automotive reviews on YouTube, but it just so accurately describes the power band of this car. Under 3,000 RPM is not where you want to be. You're just not doing the car justice. It loves to be revved out. And when you get it to like 6,000-7,000 RPM, it really does take your breath away. I mean, the steering is 91 steering, so right on center. You know, you really have to load up the car on its suspension in the corner first to really gain confidence in taking this car through the twisties. So initial turn in, whoa, yeah, those brakes are unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And there's so much grip. Lightweight flywheel too, so if you notice, like a heel toe like that is the most satisfying thing to pull off in an NA engine like this. And a lightweight flywheel just goes that extra mile in creating that motorsport experience, which I think Matt was trying to set out and accomplish when he was building this car. You need to be above 4,000. 4 to 7 is like, listen to that. Listen to that engine. Lean in. My God. My God. I love E30s. I will own an E30 one day. I will own an E30 one day. But the moment you really get the rhythm is really when this car comes alive, and it just begs you to drive harder and faster and with more precision and more intent, you know. It's really a phenomenal piece of automotive history. And Matt's made the E30 better. That's what it is. It's not like it's totally different cars, totally different chassis, obviously. But I'd rather have this car than a factory E36 M3.
It's not that I haven't enjoyed my time in the E36 M3s I've driven. I love those too. But when you can combine two of the greatest decades in BMW history into one tight and balanced package, you're overcome with a sense of nostalgia and novelty. The reality is, almost nothing has translated from this generation into the latest M cars. And I find that deeply unsettling.
In the words of every single M car and BMW car enthusiast that we've spoken to and filmed with their cars on this show, they all agree on one thing. And that is that M cars are not M cars anymore. And I just drove, less than a week ago, I just drove an F90 M5 for the first time, and I wholeheartedly agree. I would take this over an F90 M5. I mean, all tech aside, all power numbers aside, this is worth more as a driving experience to me than that F90 twin turbo M5 was. So a little side note, unfortunately Matt has decided that it is time to sell and part ways with this vehicle. So if you are interested, the link will be in the description, or his Instagram will be. If you're sincerely interested in purchasing this vehicle potentially, you can hit him up on Instagram. If you're not, just don't bother him. Don't bother people. Thank you so much, Matt, for bringing the car out. I really, really appreciate it. Once again, subscribe if you guys haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram at Untraveled if you want to follow kind of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, see some behind-the-scenes kind of stuff. We're going to be here around BC for most of the summer, so if you have a car and you're in the Lower Mainland BC area or even Northwest Washington, hit me up and we can make something happen. We'll see you guys next time.
Just need to clear my head.